Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jenna, and today I'm going to guide you through an hour-long practice of a Hatha flow, meaning that we'll work a little bit more on alignment, we'll hold the postures a little bit longer, and still work our way through a flow. Know that everything that I'm offering today is an option. I tend to give a lot of options, so feel free to choose what's better for you and take care of yourself. If you need to modify, if you need to hold back, if you need to add on, make something more challenging, feel free to do that. It's your practice. So if you don't already have yoga blocks, I would recommend grabbing blocks or something that mimics a block, like a book, or you could even use a water bottle. I'm sitting up on a blanket. It might be nice to have a blanket nearby to pad underneath your knees if your knees are sensitive. And of course, any other props that you like to use, you're welcome to go ahead and go grab them. We are going to get started in a seated position today. So coming to sit, however, is supportive for you. I'm sitting with my legs crossed. You might sit with your legs out, or you might even sit in more of like a kneeling position. So take a moment to come into a seat that's supportive for your body. And once you get settled, let your hands come to rest somewhere on your body and feel free to close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose and sigh out of the mouth. One more deep breath in through the nose. Sigh out of the mouth. And continue to breathe in a way that feels natural to you. Let your focus come to your breath. Feeling the breath flow in, flow out. And as you get connected to your breath, perhaps you notice the quality of your breath. Does it feel like the breath is held somewhere specific in your body, like your chest or your belly? Is your breath audible? Is it silent? Does the breath feel accessible? Does it feel like it's easy to breathe, or is it a little more rigid today? And if you'd like to join me, I'll guide you through a few rounds of guided breath. Inhaling for 3 counts and exhaling for 3 counts. Slowly inhale for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. Return to your natural breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Let's reach the arms out and up, reaching for the sky. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, bring your palms together down through your heart center. Inhale the arms out and up, reaching for the sky. Exhale, palms together down through heart center. Feel free to keep this going at your own pace. And see if you can start to connect your breath with your movement. Fully breathing in. Fully breathing out. And the next time your arms are up, keep them up. And as you exhale, we'll lean to the right. I'll be your mirror, so bringing that right hand down to the mat, softening through that right elbow, leaning into the right side body. You might take your gaze up towards the ceiling. And rather than leaning as far as you can, you might take your awareness into your left side body and think about creating space from your left hip crease to your left armpit. And then reach both arms up with a big inhale, reach for the sky. And as you exhale, soften your left palm to your mat, softening the left elbow and leaning to your left side. And again, rather than leaning as far as you can, think about making space between your right armpit and your right hip crease. So lengthening this space here on the side body. You might even try to root down into your right sit bone a little bit more. And then inhale, both arms up. As you exhale, lean to your right once more. This time we're going to take our left hand down to our right knee. And then sweep your right arm up and around, cross it on top of your left arm. Crawl your fingertips towards your kneecaps and start to round your back, drawing your chin towards your chest. And then imagine that you're trying to spread your shoulder blades further apart, broadening through your back. See if you can be here for 3 more breaths. Unravel your arms, sweep them out and up, lengthen out through the spine. And as you exhale, take your left hand down to your mat and lean to your left. This time we'll take our right hand towards the left kneecap, sweep the left arm up and around, cross it on top, and start to crawl both fingertips towards your kneecaps. And again, we'll round the back and draw the chin towards the chest. Think about drawing your navel in towards your spine and moving the shoulder blades further apart. Just a couple more breaths here. Sweep both arms out and up, reach for the sky as you inhale. And as you exhale, place your fingertips down on the ground in front of you and start to crawl your fingertips forward, folding forward any amount here. Let the head release and hang heavy. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And then walk your hands in towards your body and start to roll up through your spine. Uncross your legs, and let's make our way onto hands and knees. So as you come into hands and knees, you might grab a blanket and place that blanket under your knees for a little more support. If you're using yoga blocks or something that mimics yoga blocks, I would recommend setting them up at the top of your mat so they're easily accessible throughout the practice. And then set yourself up so your wrists are under your shoulders and your knees are under your hips. Take a moment to look down at your hands, and for a lot of us, we might notice that the thumb knuckle and the first finger knuckle curl up from the mat. Spread the fingers a little wider, and then specifically press down into the first finger knuckle and the thumb knuckle, and then root down into all of your knuckles. So your hands are firmly planted on your mat. And then bring the awareness into your shin bones and your ankles. Press your shin bones down into your mat, press your ankles down into your mat, so your legs are actively pressing into the mat beneath you. And then see if you can keep this activation for a moment. Draw the navel up and in towards the spine. And breathe. So just in our tabletop, just by activating a little bit more, we can find more activation in this shape. And I don't know about you, but for me, this definitely feels like work. Now you can kind of soften a little bit, still keep your hands rooted. Tuck your toes under, bring the belly down and the heart forward as you come into a cow spine. Press into the hands, pull up and out of the shoulders. Bring the shoulder blades together on the back. And then untuck the toes, push down into your ankles and your shin bones as you start to draw the navel up and in towards the spine, rounding the back for your cat spine. And then moving a little faster, we'll keep this going. Tuck the toes, belly down, heart forward, coming into cow. Untuck the toes, draw the belly in, round the back for cat. Connect the breath. Inhale to cow, toes tuck, heart forward. Exhale to cat, toes untucked, belly in, gaze down. A few more rounds moving at your own pace. Inhaling to cow. Exhaling to cat. And then come back to a neutral spine. Extend your right leg behind you. Drop your right hip down, pull the navel up and in, and push into your hands. And then maybe you lift the right foot off the mat and pulse that heel up towards the ceiling for a few pulses. Try to keep your hips level like you have a cup of water on your sacrum on your lower back. Now bring the right foot down and spin the right heel down. Kick your left foot back a couple of inches and take your right hand to your right hip. At this point, I'm not mirroring you, so my right hand. Stack your shoulder on top of your wrist, and then maybe the right hand reaches up for the sky. Maybe you'll test your balance by lifting the right foot off the mat and bringing it level with your hip. You might even take the right hand up and over your head, so you're creating a long line from your right hand down through your right heel. Firmly flex the right foot and draw the belly in. Breathe. Two more breaths. Place the right foot down, place the right hand down, Square your hips off, but keep your right leg long. Hop your right foot over your left foot so your thighs crisscross. And then look back over your left shoulder and see if you can look back towards your right foot. Opening up through the right side body a bit here. Breathing here. And then come back to the center, come back to hands and knees. Let's open the knees a little wider and sit back to a quick child's pose. So you can soften your elbows to your mat. You might turn your palms up to face the ceiling. You might wiggle from side to side, loosening up through the hips. And then slowly bring yourself back up to hands and knees. We'll repeat all of that on the other side. So find your activated tabletop position. Push into ankles and feet, push into hands, navel up and in. When you're ready, we'll extend the left leg long behind us. You can maybe even see this in my body. Naturally, when I stick my left leg back, my left hip hikes up. I'm gonna drop that left hip down and hug my outer hips in towards each other. Then lift the left foot off the mat and see if you can take a few pulses. Try to keep the left hip bone facing the ground. Okay, place the left foot down, spin the left heel down. Kick the right foot back a couple of inches as a kickstand, and then take your left hand to your left hip. We come into a modified side plank. You might stay here. You might lift your left hand up towards the sky. Some of you might even lift your left foot off your mat, bringing it level with your hip. Feel free to reach the left arm up over the head, creating that long line. And then wherever you are, let's stay here for 3 full breaths. Place your left foot down, place your left hand down, square your hips back off, and then cross your left foot over your right foot, scissoring your inner thighs. Look over your right shoulder, see if you can look back and find your left foot. Opening up through the left side body a bit here. And then come back to your tabletop position. Once more, we'll open the knees a little wider and sit back to a child's pose. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And sigh out of the mouth. Slowly bring yourself back up to your hands and knees. Take your right foot in between your hands and walk your hands up to your right thigh, coming into a crescent lunge. Feel that you're pressing down into your left ankle and shin bone, just like in tabletop. And then start to move your hands over towards your right hip, twisting towards your right. And you can use your hands to physically move your right hip back a little. Check your alignment and make sure your right knee's not splitting open to the side, but rather hugging this knee in towards the midline. You can even place a hand there if that's helpful. Hugging the right knee into the midline and using your hand to draw your right hip back. Breathe here. 2 more breaths. Great, come back to the center. Take your right foot out to the side. Ground down your right foot. And then bring your right hand towards your outer leg and take your left arm up and over for a side bend. 2 more breaths here. Come back to the center. You can take your hands to your hips and bring your right knee in to meet your left knee. So both hands are on the hips. We're going to sit back to the heels for just a moment. Sweep the arms out and up as you inhale. And as you exhale, place your palms down on your mat. Come back to a tabletop. Tuck your toes under and lift the hips up and back to a downward dog. Straighten out the right leg and bend through the left knee. And then straighten out the left leg and bend through the right knee. And you're just straightening your leg any amount. So it may not straighten all the way, that's okay. Lengthen the right leg, lengthen the left leg. One more time each side. And then lengthen out both legs. As you inhale, come forward to a plank pose. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. And then soften the knees down. Come back to your tabletop. Step your left foot in between your hands. Walk your hands up to your left thigh, finding your crescent lunge. Slide your hands over towards your left hip and twist to your left. You might use your hands to physically draw your left hip back so it stays in line with the right hip. And then you might use your right hand and place it outside of your left thigh, your left knee, and you press back on that leg. So you're hugging your left thigh in towards the midline of your body, and then your left hand is physically drawing your left hip back. So we're moving in 2 directions, the hips pulling back, the thighs hugging in. See if you can be here for a few more breaths. You might feel a little wiggly, a little wobbly. Think about rooting down into the balls of your feet, or really just rooting down into the feet in general. Take your hands to your hips. You can swing your left leg out to the side. Ground down through the left foot. And then take the left hand to the outer part of the leg. And reach the right arm up and over for a side bend. Breathe here. Try to root down into the pinky toe edge of your left foot. And then come back to the center, glide your left knee in towards the right. Sit back to the heels for a moment. Inhale the arms out and up, breathe in. Exhale, take your palms down to your mat. Tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and back to a downward facing dog. Lengthen out the right leg, bend the left knee. And switch. And switch. Eventually finding some stillness in your downward dog. As you inhale, come forward to plank. Ideally, where our hands are in down dog is about where they are in plank as well. So notice if you had to adjust at all. And then soften your knees down, sit back to child's pose. We'll be here for a few breaths. Feel free to get a block and let that rest under the head. And as we come to rest in child's pose, I'll invite you to notice the beating of your heart. Noticing its rhythm, its pace. Guide your way back up to your hands and knees. Let's go ahead and get our blocks. If you don't have blocks, you'll use anything that mimics blocks. And if you don't have that, then just place your hands on the ground. So taking our hands up onto these blocks, I'm going to take my blocks down to the lowest setting to start and still set myself up so my wrists are under the shoulders. Now, if you're using blocks, you'll kind of want to take the heel of your hand towards the edge of that block so you can get a grip. And then spread your fingers wide on that block. Now from here, we're going to tuck the toes under and come back to downward dog. So think of these blocks as an extension of your arms. For some of you, you might find that using blocks, your heels touch the ground, or maybe they almost touch the ground. Keep sending your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And if your knees hyperextend like mine do, keep a tiny micro bend in your knees. Draw your lower belly up and in. And then think about drawing your rib cage into your back body. Take a breath in. And a breath out. Breathe in. Breathe out. As you inhale, come forward to plank pose. Bring your shoulders over your ribs. And then soften your knees down. Shift your shoulders forward so they're over your ribs. And then bend your elbows back and lower down about halfway. And then press back up. One more time, lower down about halfway. And then press back up. Tuck your toes under, let's come back to downward dog. Keeping your hands up on your blocks, we'll lift the right leg up, keep the hips level. And just like we did on hands and knees, a few pulses, lifting the back of the right leg up towards the sky. Firmly flexing that right foot. Draw the knee in towards the nose, shift your shoulders over your wrists, and then gently step your right foot in between both of your hands. You might need to shift your blocks up to the middle setting or even a higher setting as we come into this lunge. Check to make sure your right knee is over your ankle. And then think about scissoring or squeezing your inner thighs towards each other as you start to pull your right hip crease back into space. Breathe in here. And breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. One more breath in. As you exhale, we're gonna lengthen out both of the legs. So try to keep the feet right where they are. You might hop your back foot in just a couple of inches. And we come into a pyramid shape. Root down through your feet and plug back through the right hip. And then find a nice long spine like you see in my body, flattening out the back. You might stay here with a flat back, or you might start to round your back and let the head hang heavy. But if rounding the back and folding forward means that you sacrifice your shape, meaning like if you start to bend your knees or you start to push your right hip forward, then just stay up with a flat back. A few more breaths here. Soften your right knee and look forward. Step your left foot to meet the right and come into a forward fold. Let the arms release. They can stay on blocks if the floor feels far away, or you can move the blocks off to the side and let the arms hang heavy. Again, let's all keep a bend in the knees here. Shake the head, yes. Shake the head, no. And then keeping a bend in the knees, start to roll up the spine, vertebra by vertebra. Sweep the arms out and up as you inhale. And then soften the hands down through heart center. Take the arms along the sides. Come to stand in your mountain pose or Tadasana. I'm going to come to face you for just a moment. And we've really only worked the right side of the body. So I'll invite you to stand here with your feet about as wide as your hips or all the way together. And maybe you can close the eyes for a moment and notice the difference between the right side of the body and the left side of the body. And know that if you don't feel a difference, that's okay too. 3 full breaths here. I'm going to turn back to face the front of the room, and then we'll repeat all of that on the other side. As you inhale, reach your arms out and up. And as you exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthening your spine, flattening your back. As you exhale, round forward and locate your blocks. Take your blocks down to the lowest setting and place your hands on your blocks. Step the left foot back, step the right foot back. Let's come into downward dog. Take a breath in and a breath out. As you inhale, come forward into plank pose. Try to keep your hands and feet right where they are. As you exhale, soften the knees down. Shift your weight forward so your shoulders are all the way over your wrists. And then bend the elbows back, lower down halfway. And press back up. One more time, shift forward, lower down halfway. And press back up. Tuck your toes under, come back to Adho Mukha Shavasana, downward facing dog. Lift the left leg up, keeping the hips level. And find a few pulses, pressing the back of the left leg up towards the sky. Firmly flexing that left foot. Draw your knee in towards your nose, shoulders over wrists. Lightly step the left foot in between the hands. And take your blocks up to whatever setting is appropriate for you. We come into our low lunge. Check to make sure your left knee is over your left ankle. And then start to glide your left hip back as you draw the inner thighs towards each other. We'll stay here in our lunge for a few breaths. Really rooting into the ball of the right foot and sending energy from the right heel to the back of the room. And letting it be a long line of energy from the crown of the head, down your spine, down through the right leg, all the way out through the right heel. Take one more breath in. And then lengthen out your legs any amount. You might hop the right foot in a couple of inches. Pyramid pose. Find a nice long flat back in this shape. You can take your gaze down to the floor so your neck isn't being turned. And then you'll decide if it's better to stay here with a flat back, guiding that left hip back. Or some of you might choose to round the back and fold forward. Again, I would recommend keeping your flat back if rounding forward sacrifices the alignment of your shape. A few more breaths here. Soften your left knee, look forward, and hop your right foot forward to meet the left. Come into your forward fold. Take a full breath in, and a full breath out. Slowly start to roll up your spine, sweeping your arms out and up, breathing in at the top. Exhaling the arms down your heart center, arms along your side, finding Tadasana. Take a breath in and a breath out. Inhale your arms out and up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway. As you exhale, take your hands all the way down to your mat this time. Step back to downward dog. As you inhale, come forward into plank pose. As you exhale, soften your knees down. We're going to take 2 chaturanga push-ups, this time without our blocks. Shift your shoulders over your wrists, lower down about halfway, and press back up. So try not to let those elbows bend out to the side. Keep them hugging in towards each other. Shift your weight forward, Lower down about halfway or as far as you can. And press back up. Tuck your toes under, lift the hips up and back to downward dog. Inhale the right leg up. Exhale, step that foot in between your hands. This time, walk your hands up to your right thigh. Come all the way up to a high lunge. Shifting your hands over to your hips. My back knee is bent a little bit. You might do this to support your lower back, or you might work to straighten out that left leg. Let's stay here for 3 full breaths. Feel your hips squaring off, your right hip back, your left hip forward. Breathing here. Take your hands down to your mat. Step your right foot back to downward dog. Inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale, soften the knees down. Untuck your toes, sit back to your heels for a moment, finding your Vajrasana diamond shape. Take a full breath in and let it out. Crawl your hands forward, take them back down to your mat. Tuck your toes under, come back to downward dog. Inhale the left leg up. Exhale, step that foot forward, rise all the way up to a high lunge. Take your hands to your hips and right away feel your hips squaring off. Root down into the balls of both feet to help with balance. And then you'll decide if that back knee stays bent or if you're going to work to straighten out that leg. Pull up through the belly, draw inner thighs in, and breathe. Soften your face, soften your shoulders. And then take your hands down to your mat, step your left foot back to downward dog. Inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale, soften knees down, untuck the toes. Walk your hands back to your thighs as you sit back to Vajrasana. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. Crawl your hands forward, come back to your hands and knees. Extend your right leg behind, spin the right heel down, kick the left foot back, and bring your right hand on top of your right hip. We're back in our side plank. Some of you are going to stay here. Others will take the left foot to meet the right foot, coming into a full plank. You can stagger your feet, you can stack your feet, or you can come back to the modified version. We'll all stay here for about 3 full breaths. So we explored a lot of versions of side plank today. Decide which version your body needs in this moment. Bring your right foot down, take both hands down, come back to tabletop. Sit back, child's pose. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. Come back up to hands and knees. We'll do this on the other side. Extend your left leg behind. Spin your left heel down, kick your right foot back. Take your left hand to your left hip. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you come into the full expression of the shape today. Staggering your feet, stacking your feet. Whoop! Or maybe you come right back down to where we started. Lots of different versions to explore in this shape today. So choosing what's right for your body in this moment. We'll stay here for 3 more breaths. And then carefully make your way back into your tabletop. Sit back, child's pose. Take a full breath in And a full breath out. Come back up to hands and knees and find that active version of tabletop. Knuckles rooting down, feet pressing down, belly up in it. Breathe. A couple of options here. You might walk your hands forward a couple of inches and shift your shoulders over your wrists. So we're in a modified plank pose, sending the pelvis forward just slightly. Some of you might tuck the toes under and lift the knees, coming into a full plank. Wherever you are, we're going to stay here for 5 full breaths. Inhaling 1, exhaling 1. Inhale 2, exhale 2. Inhale 3, exhale 3. Inhale 4, exhale 4. Inhale 5, exhale 5. Bring the knees down, sit back, child. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Slowly roll back up your spine. If you have a blanket on your mat, go ahead and take it off of your mat. And make your way down onto your belly. Take your arms along your sides. Let the toes turn in and just let the body adjust to the ground for a moment. Take your forehead to your mat. Dip your legs together and root into the tops of the feet so the kneecaps split. Draw your head, neck, and shoulders off of your mat. Draw your hands off your mat, and we come into Shalabhasana. Notice my gaze here. We're twerking the neck. So shift the gaze down towards the ground, and then draw the shoulder blades together. So you're using the muscles and your upper back to lift a little higher. Draw the navel into the spine. Breathe here. Keep rooting your feet into your mat. And gently lower down. Let either cheek rest on your mat. Wiggle the hips out side to side. This time we'll take the fingertips down to our hands down to our mat, crawling the fingertips back towards the ribs, hug the elbows in, root into the feet, and then push into the hands and lift up any amount. So coming into Cobra. You might lift up a little higher, you might lift up only a small amount, but wherever you are, root into the feet. Keep drawing the elbows in. And breathe. Gently lower down, let either cheek rest on your mat. Wiggle the hips out side to side. Tuck your toes under, press yourself up through hands and knees. Bring your knees all the way together and let your body round over your knees and thighs for a rounded child's pose. Slowly roll up your spine, come all the way up to sit. And let's come to sit on the bottom. taking your legs out in front of you, you might sit on the edge of a folded blanket to elevate your hips. This option might be great for you if you find that you're sitting here with a rounded back, or even if you know the backs of your legs are a little tight, the blanket might be supportive. Flex through your feet, root down through your heels. And let's just be here for a moment, really activating your legs. Think about drawing the pinky toe edge of your feet back. Sitting up nice and tall so the shoulders are over the hips. Let's interlace the fingers, push the palms forward, and then push the palms up towards the ceiling. Grow a little bit taller, and then bring the shoulders back down into the socket. Tuck the ribs into the back body. Breathe here. And then gently release the arms. Fold forward any amount here, rounding through the back and softening the neck and head, but keeping the legs active, still flexing through the ankles. Slowly roll back up through your spine. Bend both knees and let them glide open. If you're seated on that blanket and it's supportive, then feel free to stay there. If not, wiggle the bum forward and come off of that blanket. Some of you might get blocks or any sort of pillow or support and put it underneath your knees for more support. Find a little bit of length in your spine and then fold forward any amount. We'll stay here for 5 full breaths. Slowly roll up through your spine, bring the head up flat. Draw your knees into close. And come to lie down on your back. Bend your knees, place your feet on your mat, and lie all the way down. Take your arms out to a cactus goalpost shape or a T shape if you have more space. Scoot your hips over to the right side of your mat. Just wiggle them over a bit. And then drop your knees over to the left. Root down into the right shoulder. Try to stack your knees one on top of the other. Then we'll stay here in this twist for 5 deep breaths. You can look up at the sky. You can look over your right shoulder. Bring your gaze back to the ceiling. Shift your hips back to the center. And then wiggle your hips over to the left side of your mat. And let your knees fall over to the right. Try to stack one knee on top of the other. Root down into your left shoulder. And feel free to keep your gaze up at the ceiling or maybe take it over your left shoulder. We'll stay here for 5 deep breaths. Shift your gaze back to the ceiling. Shift your hips back to the center. Draw your knees in toward your chest. You can reach for your knees or shin bones or maybe the backs of your thighs. And gently rock from side to side. Slowly release your legs down to your mat and we'll set up for our final resting pose, Shavasana. If you have any tension or pain in your lower back, you might keep your knees bent with your feet on your mat. If not, feel free to stretch your legs out long. Of course, you can lay on your belly or your side, or you can even sit up and be in the seated position. Wherever you are, find a shape that feels supportive. We'll stay here for a few minutes. Taking these last few moments of class to find a little bit of stillness and a little bit of rest. Allow your mind to wander. Allow your thoughts to come and go. And if you find yourself wandering off too deep into thought or too deep into distraction, then guide your awareness back to your breath. And see if you can allow your mind to focus on your breath. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Bring some gentle movement back into your body. Carefully roll over onto either side. Finding a bit of a rest in a fetal position. And make your way all the way up to sit. Bringing our practice to a close. Take your palms together at your heart. Feel free to close your eyes. Offering a little bit of gratitude to yourself for setting aside this time in your day. Gratitude to the body for everything it lets you do. And gratitude to the many teachers of yoga that have passed down this ancient wisdom. Thank you all so much for practicing with me today. Sending you all lots of peace and lots of love. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. My name is Jenna. If you have any